This is going to be a great panel. We're talking about research and health careers. And the folks on the panel are Dr. Drake Mitchell, Department of Physics here at PSU. We have Toeutu Faalaveala, who is the director of the MCNAIR's Scholars Program. We have Dr. Kevin Wantanabe-Smith, who works over at OHSU. And then Jackie Wirz. Dr. Jackie Wirz, who's also Assistant Program Director of PhD programs at OHSU. So what we're going to do is we're going to give them each about 5 minutes to talk about their career pathway, and then after that we will open it up for Q&A, where you all will have the opportunity to ask them questions.
Good afternoon. Usually I speak so loudly that I'm not handing a microphone, but this time I'm going to try following directions, which is not my usual way. I'm going to expand my question about career pathways just a little to include education pathways, because I started off and spent 2 years as an undergraduate majoring in history and political science. Didn't care about science, didn't take any, didn't want to see a science classroom. Sort of pissed my parents off by getting tired of the majors I had chosen and quitting in the middle of a term that was already paid for, and said, no, I don't even want to do college anymore. Went to work for the Forest Service for 2 years fighting forest fires. Decided, no, I don't think manual labor is what I want to do forever either, and went back to school. And then my parents invited me to pay for that myself. And this was back when that was possible, which was another nice thing. Anyway, I started taking science and liked the questions raised with biology, but liked the techniques of physics. So got a degree in physics and then went to graduate school to do biophysics, to do a biophysics problem. Got that degree in working on biophysics, but in a degree that's in straight physics. And then went to a medical school and took a postdoc in a biochemistry department, where after a week I realized what I had to do was try to go to at least 2 different talks a week, and at each talk my job would be to learn 3 words. And I had it, yeah, they're laughing because they know exactly what I'm talking about. So many disciplines at that level are just full of their own language. I had a big advantage because my wife is a biologist, and I would come home and hand her my notes and say, so what does all this mean? But then I took another turn after I'd been there as a postdoc and research faculty for 7 years and had a chance to go to NIH to work in the intramural program. And the way most of us know NIH is it's a place that we apply to for grant money. But also at the campus in Bethesda, there are thousands of people who have research on site. So I'm one of those. In an odd, I would have to, usually when I tell it where I worked, I have a beer in my hand and say, drink up, because I worked for the Institute on Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism. And there was one other physicist in that entire institute that was in, down the hall from me. Mostly I had, next to me I had a psychiatrist, and the next door over was somebody who had a degree in studying metabolism, and that's the kind of place that we got to have. Then I was encouraged by my wife, again, to keep looking for jobs back on the West Coast, where she's actually from Portland. 10 years ago I came back to PSU, so I've seen a variety of settings, shall we say, and that would be, so one of my other prompts is, what would you say about career pathways? And one of them is to not in any way think you know what a pathway looks like. Just be ready to try different things. I mean, I'm doing all of these changes sort of in the 80s and 90s, when the world was more narrow and regulated than it is now. If anything now, it's become so that you jump around even more. There are things available to you that you don't even know they are until you start to look. So our last prompt is the best advice you've ever got. And I would say the best advice I ever got was apply early, apply often. An application is not a promise that you're coming. Just get out there and knock on a lot of doors and see what's going to be available. You have no idea what's on the other side of some of these doors.
Hi, my name is Jackie. I'm a talker and a walker, so I'm going to walk and talk, and hopefully I don't trip. All right, so my name is Jackie. I have a PhD in biochemistry. I'm a gigantic nerd. I went to Oregon State University, yay, where I got my degree in biochemistry. biochemistry and biophysics, and then I got my PhD at Oregon Health and Science University in biochemistry. Then I became a faculty member there, and now I am the dean, and I help run 36 different graduate programs, including the one that I graduated from. So that seems objectively pretty awesome, right? Like, it's really cool. Every day I wake up and I'm like, oh my God, they gave me a job here. What were they thinking? But that is just the surface. So if you looked at my LinkedIn profile, it's all sunshine and kittens. But we are way more than sunshine and kittens. So I'm going to tell you 4 little stories, and I hope that you guys will be able to see that there's always a really winding and meandering path to any type of success. And these paths never are straight, and they are never clear. But there's one thing I do know about all of you is that you'll be able to navigate your very own path, right? So we're going to start at the very beginning, when I was in elementary school. How many of you have been called stupid? Right? Okay. So when I get bored, I drool. Still do, as an adult. So when I was a kid, I would get bored and I would drool quietly in the back of class, and I was labeled mentally retarded in elementary school. And I was put in the retarded class in elementary school. For years, most of elementary school in fact, I was put in a class where we weren't taught how to read because it wasn't thought to be a useful use of time for the instructor. So don't believe in labels. Labels are useless. Once they realized I wasn't stupid, I was just bored, things changed. I got moving. Now, for those of you who are girls, how many have been told that you're pretty smart for a girl? Right? So once I got put into the advanced mathematics classes, I started kicking ass and taking some names, and it was awesome. And then I got to high school, and I got a B repeatedly in this math class, and it was pissing me off. My parents went in and had a parent-teacher conference, and the faculty member told my parents, she actually is scoring highest in the class. She's doing really well for a girl. I've never given a grade higher than a B to a girl. That kind of discrimination lasted not only through high school, but in college, where I was told, you know, it's pretty amazing that you can smile so pretty and do physics. I was told, are you sure you're going to be able to do this research job because you might get pregnant? I was also told, you know, for a girl, is a PhD really the right move for you? So the second thing I want to tell you is never let people corner you into a box by their perceptions of what you, as a human being, whether it's your gender, your ethnicity, your sexual orientation, never let anybody corner you into a box. All right, so I hit graduate school. Things are going great. I get an NSF fellowship. I'm in a great laboratory. Things are going full steam. And then I developed complex regional pain disorder. This is a nervous system pain disorder that completely debilitated my ability to use my hands. How many of you guys have suffered from a physical disability? Some of you. So during 9 months, I was unable to use my hands. I couldn't type. I couldn't wash my own hair. I couldn't brush my own teeth. I had to use voice recognition software to do any type of writing, and I had to hire a technician to do the lab work for me in lab. But I persevered, and through lots and lots of medication and physical and occupational therapy, regained use of my hands. But the entire time I was told, your career in science is done. You're never going to be able to get this PhD. This is not going to be a reality for you. So the lesson from this is, don't let other people put limitations on you, because you can get past that. Now the last story, finally finishing up the PhD, and then I had a complete and utter nervous breakdown, full-on psych ward. How many of you guys have or know someone who has mental disability or mental illness? All right, it touches a lot of us. We spectacularly discovered that I am bipolar. I am bipolar in a very special, flamboyant way that went batshit crazy in graduate school. And I was institutionalized. I had my faculty members visiting me in the psych ward, and I was told, you can do this. You can get out of this, and you can achieve, and you can finish that degree. So sometimes you're going to find people that are the right advocates for you, and they're going to help you get out of the darkest corners in your life. So the lesson from this story is that find those champions, because with those champions, you can make it through anything. Now, having been through all those trials and tribulations, I finished my PhD, I became a faculty member, now I'm a dean at the institution. It's been a wild ride, and it's one that I've been told many, many things along the way. The single best piece of career advice that I can give you is to just find those champions and listen and ask questions. Because no road is straight, but every road has direction if you're asking for help from the right people. Thanks.
Have fun following that. That was awesome.
No, this is
Sorry.
This is the third year I've had to follow Jackie, and it doesn't get any easier. I've just come to accept it. This is what's going to happen. My name is Kevin Wantanabe-Smith. I am not part Japanese. That's just my wife's last name, and we merged them. So I'm actually a white guy who grew up in America with 2 parents and pretty good income, and I can only tell you my career pathway because it's the only one I know. But bear with it, that caveat of I've had a pretty good life, and I know that the opportunities that I've had are not the same opportunities that everybody else has. That said, I'm going to try to tell you at least what I've experienced. And Jackie also stole like half of my talking points too. Yeah. So the first thing I wanted to tell you is that careers are very non-linear. I am a leukemia researcher at OHSU. I finished up my PhD there about a year ago, and I've been transitioning to be a data scientist in the meantime. So I've been doing programming, working with R and SQL and large data sets for the last 2 years. Careers are non-linear. You don't know where they're going to go. And you're not going to have anyone else's career. You're going to have your own. I went to high school. I was interested in a lot of things. I was really interested in programming, but not programming on the computer, not programming in Python, not writing HTML. I programmed my calculator because a teacher showed me how to do it. And I learned how to put the quadratic formula in there so I didn't have to memorize it. And then I learned how to make it do Yahtzee because I was bored in Spanish class. I never saw myself as a programmer. And yet, that's what I'm starting to do now. Your career will go in twists and turns. There was a speaker I saw at a conference once. She was a microbiologist and she ended up working for NASA. How did she end up working for NASA? In her spare time, she liked to go spelunking in caves. And then there became this question. She was a microbiologist. What grows in the bottom of caves? Well, we need a microbiologist that can go down there. So she did that. And what grows down there are things that can grow on very, very little nutrition. NASA then needed to figure out what's growing in our cold room or in our clean rooms before we send things out to Mars. We need someone who can do this type of work, a cave biologist. You can't chart that career path. You can't plan that career path. You have things you are interested in. You're bilingual. You like sports. You're into advocacy. You're really hyper-specific about which movies you like. You like fashion. These will combine and twist and turn, and they'll all come together into something that you will do that no one else will do. That said, you'll have a lot of interests that might not weave back into your career path, and that's fine. You've got to keep those open. I went to college. I majored in biology. If you're really interested in getting into biology and sciences, the best advice I can give you is find a way to work in a lab. I interned in labs through the summer. The biggest thing that will get you a lab job is them knowing you have been in a lab and things didn't blow up when you were there. So find any way to get lab experience if that's something that interests you. I worked at OHSU in a lab before I went to grad school for 2 years. I didn't know what I was doing. I think a lot of times you won't know that you like something until you've spent some time doing it. I spent 2 years doing research and I figured out, yeah, I can get with this. There's a lot of people who do that and realize it's not for them. That's fine to try things and figure out that it's not for you. I went to place in a lab in graduate school and I met with someone and they said, okay, why are you passionate about cancer biology? And I said, I'm not, but it seems interesting. And that's okay, because you'll figure it out as you go. If I were to give one other piece of advice with my transition in the last couple of years towards trying to be a data scientist, self-learning programming, is find networks of professionals that are around you, at your school, or actually a really great network is Twitter. Professional Twitter is really a thing. Find people who do work you enjoy, follow them, and that's a really easy way to interact and also keep up on what's moving around in the world and in that field. That's about all I had to say.
My name is Toeutu Faalaveala. And I think your path is going to be very distinctly yours. So I can tell you my path. And my path, I was just thinking about a question Watanabe asked me, why all the degrees? And I've never really had a good answer for that. The answer I have is that I always thought I needed those degrees. After I was in something, I thought I needed a degree. When I finished my undergraduate, I worked with the homeless and did community work. And I thought, well, I need to know more about this. So I went to the Kennedy School of Government. That's the first graduate degree, master's in public policy and public administration. That's a kind of schooling that allowed me to look at community work in a more scientific and a more sort of structured approach. So after that, I went and worked in the homeless programs. We started a homeless program in Fremont, California. Fremont had always insisted they didn't have any homeless, but all the other cities and counties were reporting that's where the people came from. So they were forced to start a homeless program. We were hired to come in. I was the first program director that designed a homeless program. So that's that. So I'm in the homeless program, running the homeless program, and I'm realizing we are dealing with a lot of legal issues, like taking over homes and all that. So I thought I needed a law degree. So I went to law school. It's not that easy to get into law school, but I just went to law school. I went to law school at Berkeley with the idea I should know more about the law if I'm advocating for the poor and the homeless. So I went and I studied what you would call street law, poverty law, civil rights. And so I was doing that, and after law school I said, well, hey, I'm here, I must want to do a PhD. So I started a PhD in ethics studies. So it's still community work and all of that kind of work. That's how my path evolved. But I'm a little older than most. I dropped out of my freshman year in college. Bumped around, worked as a reporter, and then I went into the military. So I spent 4 years in the military and then used the GI Bill to go to school. I'm from a little village in Samoa. I didn't have any money. That was the only way I could. And most people from the island or the rock go that route. But once you're in, you tend to stay in and retire. But it's really hard to leave the military when you're from the island. Most people stay and retire. It's a great way to guarantee your income. But I left and used the military GI Bill to go to school. My first career, my career in the military was a medical, what do you call it? I was a corpsman. You're a medic. So I always call myself, I was a healer in the military. So I believe you got your own path, you find your own path, whatever that is. And if you ever struggle, this is great advice. There are a lot of people out there that can help you, you just have to ask. And there's plenty of people to help. So look for that advice, look for champions, as the dean put it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing your stories. So we're going to open it up for some Q&A. So, question here.
So my question, I'm
Scream loud.
okay.
Yeah.
I'm an older student,
Turn it
and
down.
my burning passion is to be a trauma surgeon. And I was told by a doctor that I should just go to PA school because I never paid off the loans. So what would you say to that? And how would you respond to that? Is that really wrong?
I would say very unkind, unprofessional things that I cannot say on mic right now. So, first of all, there is a lot of issues surrounding student debt when it comes to higher education. So that is something to put into your calculations about moving forward, but never let ageism stop you. If you want to become a trauma surgeon, you go forth, you do those informational interviews, you talk to trauma surgeons, and you find out if this is the career path you want to do, and if it is, go for it. OHSU, of the 150 accredited medical schools across the nation, has one of the oldest average incoming age for medical students. Our oldest incoming medical student last year was 56 years old. So, passionate about your career is so much more important than how many years you may be living that career or how many years of training that goes into it. Because I have the feeling that you would be a fantastic surgeon regardless of when you started medical school.
I would just say on a practical point too, starting off orienting for absolutely what you want, and at some point there's lots of steps between here and being trauma surgeon. All of them will be good options, and orienting yourself that way will increase options as opposed to changing now to say, oh, okay, I'm now already sitting for whatever, second or third. You never know.
Questions?
But we used to higher education, would you say, I feel like, how would you guys go about having your undergrad relate to your grad? Like, if I would, for example, also doing like all sciences, I never had an interest in that, and now I'm starting to smart, right? Do you think it would still be possible to have
Absolutely. So I'll give you, who can guess what my major was in college, even though I graduated in biophysics?
Art.
Art?
Physics?
Physics! I wish. I did have a date to prom, so that disqualified me from physics. I went to college on a piano performance scholarship. Music. So I'm a classically trained pianist. What your interests are in life can be diverse. I personally view this looking at it from an academic administrator standpoint as I look at graduate school applicants. I like people that have a diversity of experience, that have life experience, that have explored many different options, as long as you start converging on a core thing that will sustain you through graduate school. Because graduate school is freaking hard work. And you need to have enough focus to be able to get through the rigors of graduate school. But coming to that rigor with experiences in music, in art, in philanthropy, in public service, all of those things can be woven together to make you even more strong of an applicant, as long as you are confident that the focus and the base that you've developed will sustain you throughout the entirety of a master's or a PhD program. But yes, absolutely. Changing interests is something that I think is actually a mark of maturity, because you're exploring different things.
So my first year in college, I had 3 majors, and I decided I wanted to find 3 majors that would be so conveniently with 0 overlap in classes. So I was a political science, biology, biblical studies interested person, and there's no overlap in those 3. And I was still able to finish up college. It took me, some tougher trimesters during that time. But part of graduate school, and I didn't realize this until I was in it, is that you will if you go to graduate school and you get a PhD and you research a particular thing, leukemia biology, oftentimes you will then go on to do a job after that, and you'll start studying asthma, or infectious diseases, or something entirely different. And all of the doctors that you see at Portland State, at OHSU, I would wager they are doing something dramatically different than what they did in graduate school. You're not locked into the topic that you start working on. What you are gaining while you are working on a topic is the ability to learn and to demonstrate that you can learn and communicate your findings. And that translates to any other interest. So I understand the perspective, because I think I worried about this a lot too when I was in school, of like, am I locking myself into a career path that I don't understand? And you're not. And also, there are like tens of thousands of different types of jobs that you've never heard of. And so literally any overlap of any 2 fields, you'll be able to find something that's there. Yes, transfer skills.
Question in the back.
Yeah, how long did it take you to finish your degree with your 3 majors?
Oh, that was only first year. I did not triple major, no. In 1 year, I split all of my prerequisites. Then in the last 3 years, I just didn't have any fun.
I would also like to say something that I took a super senior year, the extra special 5th year of college, because I needed that 5th year. I personally feel take as much time as you need to get the education you need. Don't let people lock you into a 4-year trajectory. If that's not working for you, take a 5th year, take a 6th year, take whatever it needs to make sure that you get the education you need for what you want to do. Drop life.
I have 2 bachelors, a Bachelor of Science in Healthcare Systems and a Bachelor of Arts in Development Studies. What I'm doing now has nothing to do with those 2 work. The skills, as they said, transferred, but I'm doing something that is very different from what I did in my bachelor's.
So can I follow up on that question? Second question for that. So would it be better to, like if you're interested in 2 things, would it be better to get 2 bachelors, or would it be better to get 1 bachelor and then wait and get like a master's in the other one? Which is better?
So the 2 bachelors were actually not together. I started one when I was in the military. I didn't have much choice in that one. That was what was available. It was healthcare systems, or get drunk with the boys every night. I decided for the healthcare systems. So when I left the military, I went to Berkeley for the Bachelor in Development Studies, and then finished the military degree while I would have just done 1, actually.
Thank you.
And sorry, the other question, what am I doing now? I'm the director of the MCNAIR Scholars Program, helping first and generation low-income students who want to go on to do PhDs.
I don't have a specific answer of what's better, 2 bachelors or 1 bachelor and then switch. What I would say is echoing a little of what Jackie said earlier, which is that if you do pick one and start moving in that direction, you're gaining skills and you're also gaining opportunities. The options and directions you can go after getting a major in one of these 2 places is going to be varied. And you're going to have times to incorporate that other interest later on in your career too. Like I said, I had an interest in programming when I was in high school. I didn't touch it in college, I didn't touch it in grad school for 4 years. And somehow like 10 years later, it's now coming back into like my career plan. That's at least my story.
With respect to 2 bachelors now or a bachelor's and a master's later, the question I would ask you is, what do you want to do? What do you want to do with these things after you get all of this education? So now I also understand that asking that question is also the most sphincter-inducing, tightening, freak-out question of all time. Like, what do you want to do? And everyone goes, ah! And I just want to say, not having an answer is a fantastic answer. There is no reason why you have to have your whole life mapped out for you right now. And in fact, if you have your whole life mapped out for you right now, you're going to be in for a world of surprise, because ain't none of that going to happen. So be flexible. But when it comes to choosing your degree paths, again, talk to lots of people. Talk to people who are not only trying to make the same decision, talk to people who have made that decision, and then talk to people who are doing what you want to do, regardless of what degrees are required or where they're at. But the more that you can talk to people who are doing cool, amazing things, the better clarity you're going to get about what path might work for you. Be flexible, but don't hold yourself to locking yourself into any one thing at any moment in time.
Back, go to ahead and say it.
So like, I have a question. I have a few friends where like, they have like an internal battle whether or not to go to medical school or to graduate school or both. So like, since you guys have like a pretty interesting career pathway, what would you recommend them to do? Because they've been told they should go to like internships, they should volunteer, they should go to this and that. But then at the end of the day, it's not really helping them choose what to do. So what would you recommend them to do, since like you guys are all amazing?
Magic 8 ball. No, this is a question I get a lot. So MD versus PhD versus MD, PhD. Or you can go for like, extra degrees as well. So the JD, MPH, MBA, all the three-letter acronyms. Okay, so regarding what they should do, anybody that tells them without asking them for more information, oh, you should totally get an MD, or you should totally get a PhD, or you should totally get an MD, PhD, don't listen to that advice. This is an individual, personal decision, and I would need to talk to these people, and I would want to know what are their interests, what do they want to do with these degrees. And the most important thing is not to talk to other students, but to talk to an actual MD, talk to an actual PhD, and talk to an actual MD, PhD to see what they're doing and seeing if that resonates with them as an individual. Anybody who says you should totally go for one degree without getting any more information, that's bad advice. Always, always, always talk to people that are doing the things that you're considering, and just have lots of conversations. There are no easy magic 8 balls when it comes to career progression. It's going to be a lot of conversations and a lot of synthesizing different opinions and weighing them against yourself.
Are there any things that you regret from along your path, be they things you did or things you didn't do, that we can learn from?
Don't go crazy.
Not working on that?
Yes. There are lots of things that I regret in my career path, but I also have progressed far enough in my career path to not look at those regrets and spend time wallowing in them. Sure, it would have been nice to make this different decision here and this other decision there, but no matter how shitty the road got, at least it's gotten me here. And I am proud of where I am and who I am right now. So I do have regrets. It would have been great to marry that really wealthy guy. But I acknowledge those regrets and I move on because they've at least helped me make me who I am today.
Drake, I think wanted to grab the mic.
Yeah, I was just going to say missed opportunities. Some of those people are saying here too, I have a tremendous respect for the person who decided to actually just get more degrees. Sometimes you don't have to have degrees to take advantage of an opportunity. And some of it is something none of us have said, but I think we would all acknowledge is important, is building networks, which happens in really interesting ways. And some of it is ways that, one of my University of Virginia networks was built by playing volleyball. You just don't know where you're going to be, but you never have too many of those. To just always be taking advantage of adding to people that you know about, people establishing bases for having conversations about what people are actually doing. It's something you can always do more of.
I noticed in your schedule that you had a networking, working on a networking pitch. I know it's something that makes you feel kind of used car salesman-ish. Like, hi, my name is Jackie, I have an interest in biochemistry, and in my spare time I do math. I mean, that's lame, right? That is totally lame. You guys are going to find a level of authenticity that will work for you. And it may take a long time to get there, but you will. And then when you meet other people, you're just going to want to meet people that you want to have great conversations with. And that is huge. Right now, you've already started a network with all of your first-year cohort scholars here right now, because you're all going to do amazing and awesome things. And you're going to say, I knew this person back when. So go forth and make networks and meet people. And I know right now, some of you are thinking, well, Jackie's a freaking extrovert. It must be easy for her because she can talk to a wall. I am not. I am an extroverted introvert. I go home and I die. Alright? My husband wonders why everyone thinks I talk so much, because when I get home, I just grunt. That's all I do. There are no sentences coming out of me. So it is okay to be an introvert. Being an introvert, you bring awesome strengths to the table. You don't have to go out there and be like, me, all the time. You can be yourself and still grow a network. It just takes a little bit of practice and giving yourself time to be by yourself to absorb.
If I were to give any regrets, things worked out for me, so it's hard to regret too much. I think I got very lucky at a couple of points in that I was not identifying opportunities and getting on them early enough. I didn't ask about opportunities to work in labs during the summer, but luckily there was one spot left. I didn't find a rotation for one of the times we were trying to find a lab in grad school, but luckily there was an awesome lab that had space. I got lucky at a couple of these points. If I were to go back, I would be more aware and try to plan ahead. Like, this is not like plan the 5-year plan, but plan like the 6-month plan a little better.
I should have told Grace I loved her.
Oh man. Now I have a tough time following up that. Well, you already asked a question. Sorry. One question per, no, I was kidding. There were a couple more people in the back, so you can get
Question. I'm currently taking my bachelor's in social work, but I also want to aspire to get my master's and my PhD. But I am an independent student prosecutor, so like funding is really tight. So how would I get a lot of funding right now, but for getting my master's and PhD, that's like even more expensive. So like, what would be good ideas for programs like Help Fund to be some funding to go through this?
Are you saying there's no funding for PhDs?
I don't have experience in social work, that's my
And I don't have experience in social work either, but one thing that I know that we have students, so I'm in physics at this institution here, is we have actually a lot of students who are working and going to school, who are working part-time. And part of that is we sort of know that's our constituency in my department. We're not, we don't say to people, if you're going to come to graduate school here, now you're going to be dedicated and put in this time. We say, what can you do? And that is likely to be the kind of program that you're going to be comfortable with anyway. And so part of that is to not make assumptions about what kind of programs are out there. There's all kinds of programs out there. You just look around and find places that are willing to mix somebody who's going to work some and be in school some, all the way through to PhD.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to add is that certain states and certain counties, certain cities will help you get your doctorate or your master's degree in social work while you're working. So, like for example, I know students in the state of Oregon that have worked for the state of Oregon, and the state was helping them get their master's degree. So I would definitely look for programs like that. So, Dan?
I want to say something.
Oh, go ahead.
Hey, I want to know somebody that knows about like some funding stuff or anything. I'm also a former foster youth, and I don't know exactly where you're going to go to your university or anything, but if you wanted to
Nice. Community networking.
It works.
So this question is mostly directed to you, Dr. Mitchell, and anyone can answer it, of course. But I'm a biophysics major, and I've been reading a lot about people who I wanted a biomedical engineering degree, but PSU doesn't offer that specific degree. And I was reading that biomedical engineering, fresh out of school, usually they're not focused enough, that they're too well-rounded is what I hear. So they know a little bit of a lot of things, but they're not specialized. So I have a lot of anxiety around what if I'm not doing that? So I'm signed up as a double major with a minor in chemistry, and then that's going to take me 8 years if I do that. So I just think that seems like it's too much, and I'm just not getting enough advice about preparing myself enough to go into biomaterials engineering and try to grad school. So do you have any advice?
So I was waiting for you to narrow it down. Biophysics is one of those great Alice in Wonderland words that can mean whatever the speaker means for it can be. You're going to be well served by a solid bachelor's degree in almost anything that says physics or biochemistry or even an engineering degree. And then careful selection. People that have done that well will turn around and apply to graduate. There's all these interesting positions. You guys don't realize it here, but I think probably all of us had times when we suddenly went from, oh my God, am I going to be able to do that, to holding 5 offers in our hands. And you're going to suddenly find out that if you are going to apply to that kind of graduate program, and you send out the right application to a bunch of places, you're going to end up with a bunch of people that want you. And then it's going to be, again, even biomaterials, biophysics applied to materials is going to be in a bunch of different things. So find out as much as you can, go for exactly the place you want. And I'm gonna say this is another thing that's been happening in the world is employment opportunities for good, solid, well-paying jobs for people that don't have PhDs is growing by leaps and bounds. That's one of these places where there's no, there's no particularly good reason. There's I don't know if you've heard of a program called Professional Science Masters, which is a nationally accredited, there's about 1,000, there's a handful in the Northwest. But those are programs that are made to be done in 2 years. They've been internship components. They're connected to industries usually, and they are putting people with that level of expertise into jobs.
We have 2 biomedical PhD options at Oregon Health and Science University, and I can tell you what's most important is having research experience. Your degree, your minors, all of that, that's great. We're going to look at that for a second or two, but we're really looking at your research experience and whether or not you can ask and answer really interesting research questions. So that is by far going to outweigh any title of the specific degree or the classes that you took. It is the actual research experience that is the most important component of the graduate admissions process.
I would definitely say also, don't feel like you have to get everything done in undergrad. Like, Elon Musk didn't in undergrad study astrophysics and finance and tech and everything else. He I don't even know what he did, but he studied one of those, and then through his career it broadened into other things.
So I'm kind of nervous about having to navigate fancy social settings. Like sometimes it can kind of feel like you don't belong here, or you know what I mean? And so I just want to know what your experience with that is.
Does anybody know Pink Martini, the band? Yeah, so Thomas Lauderdale is the band leader for that. I'm kind of famous for having spit chicken on him at a fundraiser, and I was at his table, and I was like, oh my god, it's Thomas Lauderdale, and I got so excited, and I had food in my mouth, and I forgot about it, and I spit chicken all over him. I'm also amazingly bad at every single thing that could go wrong with public speaking, and like wardrobe malfunctions all over the place. I've walked on stage and caused the stage to fall down. I've walked off of stages. I have walked into people. I accidentally tripped a blind person once. Like, it is just horrible, right? So the one thing I want to say is that I still survive. I am here today. The giant hole of shame that I felt was just in my head. Navigating social situations is difficult, but as long as you know that the hardest critic is going to be yourself, everyone is pretty forgiving. Even Thomas Lauderdale was okay, he wiped the chicken off. You will survive, and with practice, as long as you're just being careful and mindful, you will get better at it. And over time, you will learn that you'll be able to navigate these things. And while it may not be your favorite thing to do, statistically speaking, I've had everything go wrong for me, so you should be fine.
This is kind of a broad question, I think most of the things that we're asking. During our undergrad years, is there anything you would advise us to do beyond like lab experience and to help us prepare for our lives after getting out of school and make service more
So the question, for those of you that couldn't hear, is what should we be doing to try and make ourselves more competitive, desirable applicants? Like, what else can we do besides working in a lab and being a stellar student, all that good stuff? So my answer is to develop a personality. I know that sounds a little bit facetious, but we get a whole bunch of robots that are applying for graduate school, and they have the perfect GPA, and they did laboratory work, and they care. So I really enjoy people that have actual interests outside of science, that are well-rounded human beings, that have had life experiences, whether they're good or bad. I think that making sure that you as a human being are an interesting human being who I want to have as a colleague. People forget that. Science and PhDs are very long processes, so you're going to be a student there for years and years and years. I want students to be cool and fun and have interesting conversations with them. So, the lab work, the research is superlatively important. That is what we're looking for, because that's what you're going to be developing and focusing in graduate school. But we want real human beings being. So whatever makes you feel like a real, authentic, genuinely happy human being, go forth and do that. We have graduate students that come in and outside of their research, they're stellar volunteers with the Humane Society, or they started a nonprofit, or maybe they have a young family and that is something that they're really proud of and they bring up all the time. That is a good thing in my opinion. So just be a human being that has an actual personality and doesn't fall into the robot who uses the word passion in your application essay all the time. Hate that.
I would give maybe two pieces of advice. One is, I think public speaking is becoming more and more a universally needed skill. And so, yeah, if that is a thing that is difficult for you and it makes you anxious, and it made me too, and I would leave the front of the classroom with like every little piece of paper torn off of the side of whatever I was reading. Like there was a pile of just paper scraps where I was standing. Get into speech and debate, get into Toastmasters, get into improv, get into theater, get into something that forces you to just be comfortable talking in front of people. There are very few jobs where you're not going to need that. The other thing I would say is, while you're in college, at least once a year, just take a class that interests you. Take a class in pottery. Take a class in congressional presidential relations, even though you're not in poli-sci anymore. Like, Find something that interests you, because that might weave into something. It gives you perspective on how another field thinks about an issue. It's important.
Okay, I think we have time for just two more questions. One and two.
Yes, outside of science, math, and lab work, all the jazz, developing public speaking, how much time do you spend writing? Like grant writing, how big of yeah, like your job is like, how much of this sitting at your computer being like?
For me, because I'm switching to programming, about 100% right now. At least when I'm not goofing off with coworkers. Writing in science goes in big waves. There is when the grant is coming due, and then there is when it's done, and then you're back in the lab doing research, and then there is when you're writing up a paper, or in the case of like a thesis, I was out of the lab for 3-4 weeks and just changed myself to a desk a lot of that time. Yeah, no, I did it in 4 weeks. No, it was not great. You didn't? Okay. Anyways. It goes in surges. It's definitely not the everyday, at least not until you get to like the very, very senior levels.
I would say that 100% of my job is communication. So what percentage of it is writing versus public speaking versus interpersonal communication, all of those different things, those ratios vary all the time. But I think one of the biggest failures of STEM majors is they don't emphasize the importance of multifaceted communication skills. So whether that's writing, public speaking, talking to other people, facilitating small groups, asking good questions, all of those communication skills are 1000% core to science, but we get so focused in on these really minute details about, which atom bonds with this atom and then what math formulation used for that we forget that we have to communicate these to other people. So I would say that y'all should consider taking a writing class, y'all should consider taking a public speaking class, y'all should consider taking conflict resolution class. There's the value of communication really is threaded throughout all careers and disciplines. And in science, we tend to forget that a little bit more.
Toeutu, you're part of a grant program right now.
So a lot of the writing I do would be grant writing, emails, but most of my computer time is actually playing chess. I love chess. And also coding. My hobby is coding. Right now I'm really stuck on particular code I need to write. So that's the kind of stuff I haven't figured out a solution to that. I think I might go back to taking Calculus 5 to figure it out. Thanks.
I agree as well. And I have a dual disorder. So my question is about how advice on managing events and
Okay. So I would recommend not doing what I did, which is spectacularly have a manic depressive episode in laboratory. That's not the best way to go. Managing any kind of mental illness is a process, and it is a long process. So the most difficult thing is to accept the fact that medication management and therapy are not quick fixes. Every single time that I would start a new medication, I'd be like, this is it, we have solved the problem, I am so healthy. And then I would be tragically disappointed when that didn't happen, and then I'd have side effects. And it takes time and patience. The other thing is that you have to have this long-term perspective. So I was on high doses of lithium for quite a while. Lithium is a very potent medication for bipolar individuals, and one of the side effects is cognitive slowing. So every morning and every evening, I had to take it twice a day, I would look at my pills and I would say, these are my stupid pills. I would take them and I could almost feel myself getting stupider. And I quit so many times. I'd stop taking medication and then things would backslide. And so I'd keep on trying and I'd stop and I'd backslide and I'd try it again. So through spectacular failure, I realized that I need to stick with it in order to see those long-term results. And I did. So my best piece of advice is to remember that this is a long game that you're playing. It's going to take a lot of time to find the things that work for you, and you're going to constantly tweaking and adjusting, whether it's through therapy or through medication. But one thing I can confidently tell you is that someday you're going to find that it all clicks together, and it's going to be just like breathing. It's going to be part of your life because it's part of you. And I know that bipolar disorder is seen as being a mental illness. I don't think it's a mental illness. I think it is just part of me, and it's who I am. And when I learned to finally accept that, everything got a little bit easier. So my best advice is just keep thinking that it's a long-term thing. Don't look for a quick solution, and then be patient with yourself, and things will work themselves out.
All right, anybody takeaways before we close? No takeaway?
I just want to say that you guys being here in this program, you guys have already made tremendous first steps. Keep it up. I am honored and privileged to have met you all, and we're talking about networking. Please feel free to call or email me if you have any questions. My information should be made available through the program. You can just Google me and find me. I am a champion for all of you who are striving to learn more and be better versions of yourself. So please feel free to contact me at any time.
Thank you all. Go ahead.
Oh, I guess I just remembered one other thing to say. I don't know, have you guys talked about imposter syndrome at all during your orientation here? A little bit? No? Kind of. Anyways, so imposter syndrome is a fantastic thing that you will reach at some point. And my very first day of orientation at graduate school, the director of the program sat us down and said, so, you're going to feel like an imposter at some point in this time, and that's okay. I would say that is something that you will experience if you reach a point where you are pushing and you are challenging yourself and you are learning. You will have those days where you don't feel smart, where you feel like you don't belong, where you feel like somehow you snuck it into this program, to this school, to this major, and sooner or later everyone's going to figure out that you're the dumb one and you shouldn't be here. We have all felt that. That is entirely normal. When that happens, remember, you made it here, you have past successes, and that wasn't a mistake. It's not a mistake that you're here, it's not a mistake you're in the class, it's not a mistake you're in the program.
All right, well, let's thank our